Right, so where are my guys? We've got Thomas, we've got Adam, we've got Nick, we've got Albert, we've got Mike. Oh, you're all on the same line. That's great, lads. Brilliant. That makes it nice and easy. So I'll let you all introduce yourselves individually. I know Adam and Albert, you two guys are obviously a team when it comes to podcasting, so you just decide who answers which little bit, obviously. But can you just tell everybody who you are, what you like to do on your podcast, what the content is, the idea behind it, and where people can listen to it, and then we'll get from there. Thomas, you're on my left, buddy, so I'll start with you, mate, and I'll go along in order.
All right, so I'm Thomas from Denim Hunters, as you can see right here. This is like a virtual background. So, yes, what do I do? And what do I like to talk about? Denim, obviously. It's been... So I started the Denim Hunters podcast June 1st this year. Before that, there was the Denim and Boots podcast that I did with Jake from Almost Vintage Style, and we did that together for a year and a half. And we talk about, I mean, I on the Denim Hunters podcast, it's denim. It's I started Denim Hunters almost a decade ago, coming up in January, and it's been denim ever since. Raw denim, selvage, you name it, we all know it. So that's what it's all about. And I have guests on mostly, but I've also been doing pulling out some content from my archives, I guess, talking about how to wash your jeans and all that good stuff. So that's the Denim Hunters podcast.
Right on, man. That's a lot of fun. How often do you post, and like how have you done that? And like, what do you think is different from your podcast with Jake than the Denim Hunters podcast?
So I put out episodes every Monday, and I kept that going for the summer. That was the tough one. I mean, we have two small kids, and I mean, I don't want to blame the little guy, but the second one, he was born last August, so he's just turned 1, and when he was born, it became virtually impossible to keep doing it with Jake. So I think the difference is obviously that it's only me, and anyone who's listens to the Denim and Boots podcast knows that Jake and we have different opinions, and he has a lot of strong opinions, and that made a lot of fun podcasts. But yeah, on mine, there's no Boots, so that's the main difference, I guess. There's no Boots and there's no Jake. So yeah, it comes out, yeah, like I said, Mondays.
Right on.
Adam and Albert.
Yeah, I'll give a quick one, then I'll hand it over to Albert. I'm Adam Glinsky. I'm at Denim Mindset on Instagram. I'm Fades on the Ironheart Forum. Our podcast is called Vir Vulnerabilis Vir. In Latin, that means a vulnerable man. Albert and I kind of chit-chatted. I'll let him tell the origin story of it, because it was kind of his idea. But our podcast is really about men talking, communicating, building empathy, kind of telling our stories, and really just kind of like, the denim's a part of it. Obviously, that's how we met each other. That's how this whole thing got started. But then we're kind of like, a little bit past the close, like to the heart. So, we've had some pretty heavy conversations. Actually, Cal's been on it. Ben, we did a little show with you, and I saw Neil Barrett on here as well. So a couple people have actually been on our show at this World Denim Hang. So that's really cool, and I just want to give those guys a shout out. So thanks, Cal, and thanks, Neil. Yeah, we release every Wednesday. We're actually in a little season break. And our next episode, first episode of season 2, is going to air on my birthday, which is September 16th. And we're really excited about season 2. We're pulling out some heavy hitters here, and then we're also going to have a bunch of people return as well. So it's a lot of fun. But yeah, let me hand it over to Albert, because this was kind of his brainchild, and then we just kind of worked with it and made it happen. So Albert, take it away, man.
I feel bad because you've got the mic and the headphones, and you're in the podcast mode.
I mean, I thought like that's what we're doing. So I'm like,
no,
all right,
you look amazing. You're very well lit. I mean, I'm going to give you all the credit in the world. This time I was smart and did not pour myself a cocktail, so I'm not drunk this time. So you guys can all relax and exhale.
All right, I am. I've been drinking for quite some time.
Yeah, I mean, I was just talking, as I do, with just about everybody from different places in the world, and I love to ask questions about people and their lives, and I always want to figure out what is someone's motivation in life and what makes them who they are. And invariably, people started telling me these amazing stories. Some of them were very inspirational. Some of them were really kind of sad. And someone would say something like, I used to post, but I feel insecure now because I haven't had money to buy new clothes. I can't really show anything good. So why should I post? And I would hear that and just be like, oh my God, that's very intense. I mean, that's like the real ugly side of social media, as you're seeing everybody's disposable income flash in front of your eyes. And that's not so great. There would be some people who just were lonely, and they would just mention to me something like, oh, I had a terrible fight with my wife, and I've been sleeping on the couch for the last month. And a month later, I would just say, hey, how's your wife? How's your relationship? And they'd be so blown away that I actually remembered that they were having troubles. And right around this time, I read a couple of articles about men, basically that they're dying younger than women because they're so socially isolated and find it so hard to speak about themselves. I kind of put two and two together that this might be a really interesting book project to interview guys that I've met through this denim thing and talk about our different experiences. And, it was different across geography. I mean, you would talk to someone in Southern California, then you talk to someone in Australia, then it's, somebody in Sweden, and you were hearing some similar stories, but also you would hear the cultural differences as well. And I told Adam was one of my earliest buddies on Instagram. I had a couple of vulnerable moments with Adam, and I told Adam one night that I wanted to write this book, and it was Adam's idea to make it a podcast. He said, Albert, do the research as a podcast. We could interview people, and you could use that as a subject for your book. And I thought, wow, that's a really good idea. Knowing I have zero comfort level with technology, I was like, if you could take care of like a lot of the details. And this guy went out and he bought me a mic. He sent me a box with my little mic in it, and he helped me with all kinds of issues at first, and has been absolutely incredible partner because he writes the music. He came up with the name Vir Sphere, which I still can't really say. But honestly, it's just been very moving. It's been very, very moving. People tell us stories, and we get these gorgeous letters, and people are like, "Wow, this really influenced my life." So it's been incredible. I mean, season 2 is coming up. We're gonna interview. Our second interview actually will be with this guy named Bruce Feiler, who has a top 10 New York Times bestseller book, and it's about life during a period of periods of transition. And it was like a total mind blower. It's been it's really had a big influence on my own life. And this is all happening because of the podcast. So it's like the unintended consequences. They keep growing and rolling, and people like Angel out in where is it, Arizona, meets one of the guys that we were interviewed on a podcast, and now they're friends. And it's just been very gratifying, and really, I feel like we're building a really wonderful community. And we had a couple of people just been so supportive. So it's really been quite a ride. We did 40 episodes in the first season. So we're really excited to be coming back with it next week.
That's really impressive. 40 episodes is not easy to put together.
No.
I just wanted to give one quick shout out because we were talking about support, and I saw that Tim popped on here. And Tim, love you, man.
Oh my God, Tim!
He's been like a big support dude from day one, and he's been on our podcast twice. So thank you, Tim. And I see so many friends on here. It's so much fun. So thank you guys for all showing up. Our little
Adam,
podcast,
on my little phone, I can't get everybody. I don't know what view I'm on, but I can't see who else is on here. So I got to
hit up a gallery view, and you can or you can swipe,
or hit participants
support over the Zoom call again.
I know I'm going to hang up because that's what I'm going to wind up doing. Anyway.
Also, nice to meet you, Tim. Obviously, we've been back and forth a few times, so lovely to meet you, sir. Thank you very much for that, Albert and Adam. I'll move on to Nick next. You're next in line on my screen, Nick. So if you could tell us a little bit about your podcast, my friend, that would be lovely.
Yep, I'm Nick Johannesson. I'm coming in from Tønsberg in Norway, an hour south of Oslo. My podcast is called Garmology, and it's an offshoot of my blog, welldresseddad.com, which I've been doing for 7-8 years now, some 600 posts. Garmology was really something that happened during the lockdown, really, when we started doing all these Instagram live chats. And it was just fun actually talking to people, but Instagram Live kind of sucks because unless you store it, it's gone. So I was storing it as Instagram movies, uploading it to YouTube, and I thought, why not just launch it as a podcast? So that's been going for 2.5, 3 months now. I just did episode 24 today. Format-wise, it's me and a guest. Guests vary a bit, from industry people to chums of mine who come back each few weeks. So there's Sean from Glasgow, Ducky from Brighton, and John from also near Brighton. The name Garmology, garments and ology, so it's sort of garment knowledge. And I have to say, yes, denim, but also tweed, boots, environmental aspects. I'm very big on the sustainability angle. So that's something every guest is challenged on. What does sustainability mean for them? The answers vary wildly, depending on where they are in the industry or where they are in life. And, well, that's Garmology for you.
Thank you very much for that, Nick. And now we're on to Mike. How are we doing, Mike? We okay, buddy?
I'm good, man. I'm just trying to hang in. Can you guys hear me all right? I just got some new earbud things, and I don't know if I'm using them right. So thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. My name is Mike, handle that I'm the podcast that like no one's ever heard of. So no stress if you have no clue who I am, but it's at Grit and Kin, but it's the Grit and Kin podcast. And I started only up a handful of months ago. I don't have a whole lot of episodes. I started at maybe one of the worst times because started maybe like 6 weeks or 8 weeks before about every life thing that I could add to my plate was going to hit all at once. So things have slowed a bit. I do a bit less on, I mean, certainly sort of garments and clothes and denim and vintage is sort of part of the podcast, but it's really mostly just chatting and story based, kind of helping people share their stories and kind of what got them into to denim and vintage. So kind of where it all started from for me was, and what kind of sort of sparked the idea or made me curious was the 2016 elections in the U.S. As the campaigning and things were going on, we saw just a lot of imagery around, I guess, sort of our more conservative side of the country. I'm really and I don't mean to make this like a political thing, obviously, but really sort of co-opting what working class and what blue collar people look like. And so you always saw a lot of people, I guess, who sort of looked like me, but they were, always like in dirty clothes and dirt under their nails, and they were coal miners and things. And that's what it was to be working class or to be blue collar. But what we all know is that working class people are women, and they're part of the LGBTQ community, and they're people of color, and they're immigrants, and so on and so forth. And I work at a college, and my day to day is working with a lot of people who don't look like me, who have a lot of different stories. And so it just started over the years, kind of making me explore more about sort of the intersection between workwear style and the style of work we do. And then that kind of became the podcast. So I've got quite a few less episodes than everybody else and a few in the hopper. I think there's 5 up now, and I've got 2 in the hopper that have just kind of been put on the back burner because of other life things. But that's the Grit and Kin podcast. So I appreciate you.
No, that's really cool. Obviously, I've set this panel up with us guys, and that's enough for a panel talk. Just as for a shout out, is there anybody I've missed that might be doing
this? Yeah, you missed this guy.
Well, oh,
And
sorry. Dave's just been here all along. No, yeah, sorry, Dave. Fire away, Dave. Tell us about Sons of Salvage.
Yeah, cool. So I'll try and keep it short. So my name's David from the Sons of Salvage podcast. In short, I grew up in Texas, lived in California, found my way to France and then to London. When I got to London, I was really missing having folks who were into denim and menswear and boots and all that kind of stuff that patina's over time. And so I met a guy named Kevin, and we both kind of teamed up and we're starting to build a local meetup called Worn Out Global. Basically, it's a monthly meetup in London where, Kevin and I would meet up, grab a pint. No one else would be there. But over time, it actually kind of turned into a pretty awesome community. So now we're probably 20 strong at Worn Out Global. And oftentimes in our meetup, I would tell these guys about a board game podcast I listened to called The Secret Cabal. They don't really like board games. So they think I was crazy, but I kept telling about this formula of like a bunch of mates that have known each other for a long time, hanging out, talking about something they love. In this case, it was board games. I said, oh shit, we're a bunch of mates. We hang out and we talk about denim. Let's just do a podcast about it. And so we started about 3 months ago, and we put out an episode every month. And Ilya, who's one of our members, is harassing me there. But anyways, the idea is that we basically once a month put out an episode, and it's generally speaking about denim and menswear and kind of heritage, rugged style, whatever. But the format is we do talk about current interests. So that could be books, film, music, board games, bit of Warhammer miniatures for one of a couple of our members. So just kind of whatever we're into. We always do a discussion topic. So we've talked about how we got into the hobby, how to buy your first pair of raw denim jeans, a showcase on craft brands we appreciate. I think the next episode is going to be a discussion topic on favorites from our own collections. And then we try and do a bit of Q&A. So it's quite new, and we're trying to keep it scrappy and just sort of see what people like and what they don't like. So the six of us will chat about it, and we'll record an episode. And on that note, I should quickly mention the other host. So there is Kevin, who's Kevin Proctor. He primarily posts to Worn Out Global. Andy, who's another step in the wrong direction. Ilya, who's Ill Cuts. Tom, who's Tom Jitsu and also owns the brand United Overalls Company. And Lex, who owns the brand Field Denim Workshops. So it's the six of us together, basically just hanging out, talking denim.
Just a quick one. The United Overalls are actually on tomorrow morning for anybody that's interested. At 11 a.m. They're the last slot. I apologise for missing you, Dave. That were a complete...
It's been a long day.
It was going to happen to somebody.
Yeah, well, and I'm not even halfway through. 9 hours and 20 minutes in. Is there any other podcasts who I have not invited onto this? Because there's enough of us that deserve an honorary mention that are sort of within our community. I don't think there's any. I'm just not wanting to leave anybody out. Do you think? No? Well,
there's going to be an upcoming podcast that's going to come out. I don't know if you guys know Mirka. She lives in Finland and works in the denim industry. But I've been talking with her a little bit, and I'm helping her set up a podcast and helping through all the technical stuff. We just became friends from chatting on denim and stuff. So she's going to have a little podcast about denim industry, that kind of stuff too. So look out for that. I think it's going to be called This Little Bird Talks.
Little Bird Talks. Yes. And the reason I recognise that is because Mirka is actually on at 8 a.m. GMT.
Yep.
So she's actually doing a shop talk, but I'm sure the podcast will get mentioned if anybody's interested. So that's really great.
That's the list. One is Ilya mentioned Heddles has started putting out episodes again. They kind of stopped for a while and they just brought it back. Nice. They've had RTT, Mosin, a lot of good stuff. And there's also another one called Blammo, which leans a bit more towards tailoring and kind of that end of menswear, but it also does delve into some of the denim space as well.
And of course, the Clubber podcast.
Oh, that one. I don't know if that one can come back.
It should, though. It should. It was awesome.
It don't feel the same with Art Glenn. And now we've just sort of like, we speak all the time on the phone, but in terms of actually getting together regularly to podcast, it just seems no matter how many times we arrange it, it never actually happens. So hopefully one day. But yeah, no, I liked. We had a good time doing that. So as daft as it sounds, it's really funny because we're like quite a niche community. Although there's a lot of us in terms of how many people you get to know on Instagram and how many people you get to know through social media. It feels like you know loads more people. In terms of the world, we're actually quite a niche community. So you tell me, I mean, I only ever listen really to stuff to do with denim and football. That's it. I mean, do you think it's strange that so many of us have got podcasts and they're all slightly different, yet it's still such a little small community? I think it's really impressive. But I just wondered what your thoughts were.
Yeah, I don't know that I think it's kind of a combination of several things all just happening at once, right? So I think as the denim and the workwear community and as that's I think really started to grow more and more, primarily due to I'm sure Instagram. You have more people interested in it. I think podcasting is generally becoming more and more common, and it's more accessible to people to be able to do that. And finally, anyone who's started their podcast in like the last 6 or 7 months are just at home anyway, right? So like we're at home with our thoughts, and we can order, nice equipment, and it gets to our door 2 days later, and then you can just have a podcast. So what I think is really cool though is like everyone's spin on their podcast, right? It'd be kind of boring if we all just talked about the same sort of thing over and over on all of our episodes with all the exact same guests. But I think because we all approach it a little differently and have sort of different priorities within our podcast, I think that's what makes it really cool.
Yeah, and I mean to reply, Ben, I guess on why there's so many. I think it's also, like I said, I mean, I've been blogging for almost a decade now about denim and making videos, and it's what I do for a living, freelancing as well. And from all the different kind of media I tried out, I think podcasting is the most engaging. It's the only medium you can consume with when you do other stuff as well. It's easy. I know a lot of people do it when they drive, when they commute, when you're cooking. So in that sense, it's more accessible as well. And yeah, like you said, Mike, I mean, it's also relatively easy to produce, I guess. I mean, you just need to talk, right? Everyone can talk. Of course, you need to put something together. You need to have an idea and a plan and maybe also some guests. But yeah, I mean, it's relatively easy. So I think that's also something that makes it popular.
Compared to traditional blogging, podcasting is so easy. Mm-hmm. I mean, 2 hours of work and you've got an hour's podcast out. If you're writing a blog, you can spend a whole day or two taking photos, writing, all that. And the gratifying thing is that you find that people like listening to guys talking about stuff they're interested in. And it doesn't have to be super technically produced or super well made. Just two guys talking about their trousers, and you've got loads of guys listening in. It's really weird.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so I listen to podcasts about all kinds of things, basically all day. Like if I'm not in a work meeting or something, whatever else I'm doing, there's almost always a podcast going. And traffic, at least where I live just outside of DC, and traffic is a nightmare. So when I used to be on the road a lot, podcast was also my big thing. And I think after a day, because I spend all of my day just talking to people and listening to stories and relating to students and mentorship and stuff like that, which is great. But with podcasts, what's really nice is I can be a part of a conversation, but I don't have to participate. Like I don't have to give input, but I can still feel like I'm a part of a conversation. And I think that's what a lot of people do like about it. It's like a way to take in info and feel like you're a part of something bigger, but you don't have to have anything planned. You don't have to, you don't have to stress about weighing in on what's going on. So.
Yeah, to build on that a bit, it's like once you get a podcast you really like and you've listened to it long enough, you almost feel like, if it's a casual podcast, not a very formal one, like a TED Talk or something, but if it's a casual one, you begin to feel like you almost know these people and they're your friends. And so that's kind of why we did our podcast, was we wanted to kind of create this social network that with people we don't know, but hopefully they will eventually all get to know us and become his community.
If you find a podcast that's been going for a while and you discover it, and there might be 40 or 24 episodes previously recorded, well, then you can dive right in and just
the binging aspect is awesome. Well, so it's sort of what happened with. So when you're talking about sort of almost feeling like you become friends with the people you're listening to, and it's sort of a smaller, less like you said, like a TED Talk sort of thing. I mean, that's kind of what happened for me. I was just kind of getting into denim. I was always into vintage, but like just sort of really getting into raw denim and selvage and that sort of world. And around that time, I started listening to Ben and Glenn, and I think not only was that a fun learning thing for me and nice to expose me to other people, but one of the things that drew me in, I think, was after you start listening to a couple episodes, and I started listening while there was already a handful of episodes out, so I was able to binge a little bit. But I started kind of feeling like, these guys are my buddies. They have no idea who I am, and they've never met me, and they may not want to. But they felt like friends, like almost immediately. And I think that's the nice thing about podcasts too, is you just kind of start to relate to someone and their stories, and you're looking forward to those next things. So,
one of the things that I've really enjoyed the most, I think, first of all, there were people who I didn't think I really had much in common with or would not have a great conversation with. And they would drop me a note and just say, "Oh, I just wanted to tell you, I just listened to a whole bunch of the podcasts and they're really good. And I'm so glad you're doing it." Sometimes they were people that I didn't think I had any connection to at all. And it started a friendship. And that was incredibly rewarding, because it goes to show when you're flipping through Instagram, you don't really know anything about a lot of the people you're flipping by. And it's easy to have both be kind of taken by some people and think, oh my God, what an exotic, incredible lifestyle they have. And then you suddenly learn a lot more about them and realize they're human beings just like you. Or sometimes you see people who just have layers of depth to them, like people who don't say 2 words in their captions, who then you start talking to, and they have really powerful social justice things that they're fighting for on the side that they just don't share in their feed. That's been very rewarding. In some instances, there's been people I've known on Instagram for 3 years, like Cal Geary's. I've just known him forever, but it was really different when he came on the podcast and told us his story. It was like, wow, I didn't get a chance in a normal conversation with Cal to learn some really amazing and kind of deep stuff about this dude. And it just goes to show there's something about turning on a microphone and framing a conversation in a moment where suddenly stuff that's just chat and talk is taking on a different resonance, and people feel like they need to say something that maybe they wouldn't normally say. And it's been really kind of beautiful to watch people who are nervous as hell, who suddenly shined, like, oh my God, I was like, holy shit, they were not thinking that they had anything to say. And once they started talking, they were like beaming. It was just incredible. One example was like Sean, Selvage Wings. Like, he wanted to talk about social anxiety, and that turned he was talking about finding it hard to start a conversation. And we had an amazing conversation with him. And it was just like, struck up a really great friendship. And that's kind of what I've loved. I mean, I've really obviously loved having Adam in my daily life. I mean, my weekly life. Adam, the last couple of weeks that we've not talked, I'm feeling like my stress level goes up when I don't have that Saturday or Sunday morning catching up with you,
right?
Yeah, it's been a little different. So more than anything else, it's just confirmed people just talking, people expressing themselves. It's one of my pet things in life. I never want people to think that they don't matter. And the single best thing that you can do for that is to just ask them to tell you their story. That really makes people feel special when you say, hey, tell me something about yourself. Where are you from? What do you do? What do you read? Who are you? That kind of thing. So it's really been quite a deeper journey than I expected it to be when we first started it.
Adam sort of mentioned it. Oh, I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
Yeah, if they say that a picture's worth 1,000 words, maybe you could say a podcast episode's worth 1,000 Instagram posts.
That's very well put. That's very well put. Do you, when you do your podcasts, obviously David, Nick, Thomas, Mike, do you? I mean, Adam and Albert, I think their podcast is very good, and one of my favourites were actually Cal's. I'm not sure if it's because his story was good or because I'm just in love with his accent.
Say something, Cal. Come on.
Which he already knows. Would you feel like your podcast, for anybody that's listening, so this is mainly David, Thomas, and Nick, and Mike, do you think it's more about, do you aim to speak more about the clothing rather than the person, should we say, behind the clothing? You know, is it brand orientated? Is it clothing orientated? Like, what sort of content do you hope to get out of it when you finish recording an episode? And
I think it's very varied, really. I mean, what I'm after all the time is the stories, the good stories, and some of that can be garment related, brand related, person related. People you talk to have had really great careers, or something you're talking about just has a great story behind it. And I'm sort of trying to mix it up a lot and not be too predictable. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't talk too much. It's not very brand heavy. I think we mention some brand related things just in casual conversation. But in the same way, I'm more curious about getting to know people's stories and giving them a place to sort of tell their story a little bit. And it's, I would say, certainly the clothing is all very, very secondary.
Yeah, I think for us, the hobby is the focus. Like, we're trying to sort of recreate that experience of when you go to a hangout with friends, you're geeking out about stuff you love, whether it's music you both like, book you both like, new pair of jeans, new jacket. So our hangouts are basically just geeking out about stuff. And so it's basically turning that into an audio format and hopefully kind of building connections with other people who have the same interest.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I think for me, it's jeans. It's all about the jeans and the stories that relate to that, and then the guests they have something to say about jeans in one way or the other. Like, you know, this week, Ben, it's you, and we talk about this. It's related to jeans somehow, right? But yeah, and then I have my own personal preferences in terms of brands, and they get featured too much. But that's what it is. So it's denim, and that comes first for me.
What are your plans moving forward? Obviously, you've got a second. Well, you've all got second. You either do continuous podcasts like I did, or you can break it up into seasons. What are you hoping to achieve from it long term? Is there any sort of goal behind it, or are you just literally shooting the shit, just enjoying it? Is there an aim? Do you want to? Have you got specific guests you'd like to get on that you dare mention the names of?
Ben, you really should realize that we're all professional podcasters here. We're not just shooting the shit.
Yeah,
please, give us a break.
Ben, you should just fucking take us seriously, damn it.
We got sponsors.
Well, this is the point. Like, do you actually have sponsors? Has anybody actually got a sponsor yet?
Called my day job.
We do, yeah.
Do you really? Do you mind me asking? Because when we never got approached to have a sponsor, but when we were at our height, and you might be a lot more, when we were doing well with the Clobbercast, every 24 hours accumulated 6 weeks worth of listens.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. That's a lot.
You get what I mean? But nobody ever approached us. So I always thought to myself, Jesus, I wonder how many hours you've got to be getting listened to just to get somebody interested.
You just need to sell it, but then you were also selling your own stuff through your store. So I think that was, I mean, you didn't need sponsors in the same sense that others might do.
Quite possibly. So Adam, can I just confirm that Adam and Albert are the only person with an actual sponsor at this current time?
At the current time.
Yeah,
so we're gonna be announcing someone sponsoring our second season. One of our anchor sponsors, and it just happens to be someone in our community who's was a great guest and is very beloved, and just believes that the that the podcast is doing some good. So, we're going to reveal it on Wednesday.
That's okay.
If we can get our shit together.
We don't even know.
I gotta edit that episode.
we definitely don't need to know who or anything like that. That's all fine for the revealing. But can I ask I am genuinely naive to this. What is a sponsor on a podcast? I know it's you put an advert out or you read a segment. I get that. I listen to lots of podcasts. But what? Do they give you a discount code? Do they pay you 10 quid every time you mention it? Like, how does it come about?
I know a couple of folks who've had sponsors actually pay money for a certain number of mentions. But in our case, we're just going to be trading off mentions for inclusion in other campaigns that they're doing, just helping to kind of cross fertilize each other's networks a little bit. Just try to reach people that we wouldn't normally reach on our own, and just tell the story, and with the hope eventually of getting more people on board. I mean, I'm honestly hoping that we could eventually, just bring more and more people. One of the reasons I'm really excited about one of our early guests is just that he is a best-selling author, and he looked at our Instagram feed and he knows we don't have millions of followers, but he still wanted to do the show because he thought that it had value. And I'm just thinking, if we just stick at it, it's very easy to get very discouraged. And I know this because I launched my own business. 20 years ago, I started a music promotion business. You start a new business, when things are quiet that first 6 months, you're like, holy shit, what a bad idea. Nobody wants what I'm selling. You need that wherewithal to stick with it because it can take root and build an audience, but it's not going to happen overnight. And you have to really enjoy the process. Like, that's the thing I tell people more than anything else. The minute you start having like really, really strong expectations for a certain result, you'll probably be disappointed. But I think in doing what you enjoy, and in our case, it's unusual and a little bit different what we're doing. I feel really lucky that I found someone in Adam who is genuinely interested in this subject matter, and we come at it from very different approaches. And so he brings very, very different take on talking about problems. He's amazing at like referencing a book that he read on the subject. And I tend to be a little bit, because I'm like twice his age, much more life, here's what I went through when I did that 35 years ago or whatever. But I'm hoping that eventually we'll have more and more, not all of our guests are from the denim community. I'm trying to get people outside of our community to come in, because what I'm finding is some of them are coming in and going, oh, I didn't know you're into this style thing. And then I'm hoping that we can, all of us populate each other's worlds a little bit, because I think there are tons of guys who pay no attention to their clothing whatsoever. And I think it's kind of cool to think that we could not only grow an audience for guys just being more comfortable talking to each other, but also for guys being more comfortable expressing themselves through how they dress. I'm absolutely amazed at just how people are really transformed by having other people tell them, hey, you took a risk and it looks great, congrats, whatever. It's a little pat on the back, and it makes a big difference in people's lives.
I think it is possible to make a living off podcasting. Jeremy, who does the Blamo podcast, he has one advert he reads in each episode, and that is what he lives doing. But I think if you start podcasting with the ambition of actually making a living off it, you're likely to be disappointed. Podcasting these days is pretty much like posting videos to YouTube. It's a very, very busy area, and it's hard to grow. And getting sponsors that will pay serious money to read ads, I think it's tricky. So if you're going to podcast, I think you need to do it for the love of the topic and because you enjoy what you're doing, really.
Yeah, there's a couple other hobbies I have in that space. There's some really big podcasters, and they either do Kickstarters to fund like their next season, or they'll set up a Patreon page where people can basically just donate cash, and maybe they get something special for doing so, and it's sort of like just donating to that creator.
Yeah, totally. I was going to mention Patreon as well. I don't know if you guys listen to Philosophize This, but it's a cool little podcast about philosophy through the ages. And his entire income is based on Patreon. And he started from scratch. He's got probably 175 episodes now, but the whole thing just started just from the love of the topic. And he's like, I love philosophy. I love talking about the different constructs and principles, and I'm just going to chat. And then he's like, hey, if I wanted to, make my podcast better, I need to pay an engineer. I need to pay for someone to produce this, and I need to pay for editing and, hosting and stuff. And from there, was able to really just, make a big wave. So, and he's got a huge podcast. I mean, he makes about $500 an episode that comes out every week. So he's doing pretty well, just in that. But, I think with Albert and I, our podcast, our kind of vision is just, we're doing it for the love of it. We truly enjoy this. And I told Albert, if I'm sick, if I'm cranky, if I'm not in the mood, I'm in the mood to do my podcast because it's so much fun. And I always take away something. There hasn't been a time where I left doing our podcast where I'm just you know what, dang, that was 2 hours just lost. And I don't have anything. It's it's always fun to do. It's always fun to do the work and edit it and go back in. And plus being able to add my own music to it and just kind of give myself a creative outlet. It's the audio that I work on, is a lot of fun. So yeah, just kind of what Nick was saying. If you go into it saying yeah, I want to make $1 million, probably not going to happen. Just like Instagram, it's you're not making the big moves off of that, but it's just fun. And it just feels good for the soul. So that's why I like doing it. And I couldn't be happier with Albert. So thank you, man. I love you, dude.
Love you, dude.
Yeah, I'm certainly under no illusion that I'm would ever have a sponsor for the podcast, and nor am I looking for one. I echo a lot of what you guys said. I mean, a lot of it's just really fun. And if it wasn't fun, we all likely wouldn't be doing it. But kind of another piece of why I do is also it's kind of a little self-serving and a little selfish. So when I relocated to the DC area from the Midwest, and when I did so, didn't really know anyone. I didn't have a community. Didn't really have any friends. And so at that point, one of the things I had done was I started the DC Denim Hangs, and that was just another thing that was designed to take some of my interest and find a way to meet people. And then the podcast does very, very much the same thing. It allows me to do the things that I like and the things that I'm interested in, but sort of selfishly allows me to create community for myself and meet people that I wouldn't otherwise get to meet. I mean, especially during this time, right? So it's sort of selfishly a way for me to make friends. So
same here.
I'll be your friend.
Yes.
Starting right now. Yes. Add another one to the.
If you guys really want to be our friends, you got to give us a review on iTunes. That's how we really make our friends.
Oh,
there's a cost of friendship with your podcast. I'll go. Yeah, I'll do that once I've got a sponsor that we can be friends.
Nick, you were saying something.
I was just saying, I mean, these podcast ideas that Mike and David are saying now, it doesn't sound like a great way to meet girls, though.
Well, so I get what you're saying. Oddly enough, most of my guests have been women. So.
Oh, okay. Serves me.
So Ben's just nipped to the woo. And I was just going to ask. I know, God. So I was just going to ask, so you guys all do podcasts and you all are like, oh, it's dead easy to do a podcast. It's not. It's really hard, guys. You guys are amazing. No, it is, because some people can't, then they haven't got that knack of talking. And you guys all talk really well. And I love all your podcasts. And I just wanted to know, how much editing do you do? How long does it take you? Because I don't think people realize how, you put time into it.
I mean, okay. So it's pretty easy technically to do it because you can do it on your phone. Even, I like Adam. Of course I have a mic and stuff, but it's not that expensive anymore. Just your normal laptop. But yeah, editing. I think that's that's what, whenever I get a guest on, and we try to work it out with the connection and stuff and the technical part, and it's just a little, fuck. It was a really good interview, but the technical side of things is just dang, not too good. And then it takes some editing. You need to go in and do some EQ and some stuff and get some of the noise out, whatever it is, kids in the background, dogs, all kinds of crazy shit. So but sometimes you can be lucky. It's like, boom, he just uses, regular headset that came with the phone. It was perfect, nice. But and then, I think it's not that you just turn on the mic. At least for me, it was, it took a few tries, I guess. And it feels like, still when it turns on, there's a little like, I can, a little extra heartbeat somehow. It's like, okay, now we're recording. Now it's live, because I do it mostly as sort of live on tape. If there's any big issues or, like dogs, for instance, I can go in and take that out. But mostly it's like, okay, if it's recorded, it's there, basically. So in that sense, you kind of, what you do is ideally you prepare, you do a pre-interview, you talk. Of course, I think it works best. The best episodes the best interviews I do is when I know the people in advance somehow, at least. So if I don't know them already, it's doing a pre-interview that helps you a lot. But that was just the way I do it, I guess.
I edit as little as possible, really. You can go nuts if you realize that the guy you're talking to says,
like me,
175 times in an episode, and then you think, should I edit out all those? No. So basically, add some music at the front, add some music at the back, pop it out, unless there's some real big cock-ups, like the episode I put out this morning, which I recorded yesterday afternoon with Sean in Scotland. About 18 minutes in, his dog leaps up onto the sofa, takes a leak. His wife removes the sofa cushion. The dog comes back and starts eating at the sofa. That's the 5 minutes I had to remove. But other than that, edit as little as possible, really.
Yeah, I think
sometimes you talk over each other. Sometimes someone coughs, but that's natural.
Yeah, I think there's a couple hurdles you have to figure out to kind of get going. So first, podcasts have to be hosted, which is kind of weird and old school. So you got to find someone to host your podcast, which seems silly, but you have to do it. Second, you got to learn an audio editing program. So I just learned GarageBand, which is built into my Mac when we started doing our podcast. And the third is you got to have to find your groove, which I think is a combination of making sure you have a very rough script and then just practice. Like there's 6 of us on our podcast, so we're often interrupting each other and acting like idiots. But over time, I think we're getting better at it. So,
yeah, I think it's as hard or as easy as you want to make it, right? Because you mentioned that it can be as easy as turning on your phone and just getting to chat, and it can be as complicated as putting a bunch of music in and doing a ton of editing. I'm sort of, I guess, a little bit fortunate. I'm not a tech savvy guy, and it's also just plain not what I'm interested in doing is sitting and editing. But I still host a podcast, like a community building podcast at the college I work at. And they've got a whole music recording technology studio and program and things. And so I was fortunate enough that one of my former students at the college, who's a musician and very good at audio engineering and that sort of thing, was also interested in helping with the podcast. So I was fortunate enough that I kind of find the guests and I have a kind of a fun laid back chat with them. And then I start recording and we chat, and then I send everything off to him and he puts in the music and he does whatever, like little bits of editing. If there's something that where the sound went out or, something that would have just made it hard or distracting to listen to. He sort of takes care of that. He's awesome. I don't know if Ignacio's on here, but shout out to Ignacio for all the work he does. He's really talented. But yeah, I also agree, like the pre-interview thing, I don't do so much an official pre-interview, but I always I love getting on with the person before hitting record and just chatting with them and sort of building this little bit of comfort around a conversation. So you've almost forgotten that I could have just been recording, right? So we'll start chatting, and then at some point, even before the interview starts, a lot of times I'll just hit record so that it's already going, and we sort of get that pressure out of the way of, oh my gosh, I got to hit record. And so we're just still chatting and bullshitting about whatever before we really get to the interview. And I find that's really helpful.
It certainly helps to warm up a bit. The problem is when you get going too well and you realize after an hour and a half that, damn it, we have to record something soon.
Yeah, and you said some good stuff. It's like, oh, fuck, you said that good thing at the beginning. It's like, no, say it again. Yeah.
I honestly, lads, I've done that on every Global Denim and YouTube video I've made to date. We've done like a load. There's like 30 different videos. I've done one with Nick. I've been on with Mark and with Adam and Albert. I've been on with Mike, and they're all coming out in the next few weeks. And I feel like with all of us, we've spoke for like 5 minutes before I've actually pressed. Before I've actually gone, whoa, hold on a minute, lads. Let's just start again because we're making some nice content here. And yeah, well, it happens, doesn't it? It is what it is. There's been a few comments just come through. Not many, but I do like to read them out because people watching the YouTube stream can't see them. One of them is, we need a Selvage Sisters podcast. Amanda, I've only been telling her for the last 4 months to sort this out. Now, she might start listening now where everybody else is agreeing.
It's like I just said, though. It's easy for people who it comes easily to.
Come on. Let's help them.
You can do
anyone
it.
here.
You can do it.
We will. I mean,
and I think if you surround yourself with good...
Yeah.
You're a team, Amanda. The Selvage Sisters are a team. I'm sure you can pull it together, and you know that you've got the support of most of these guys. Yeah, that should definitely happen. Albert's obviously said plenty of nice things tonight. But
sweetheart.
Albert came in at 9:32. Albert, and then somebody else has put Albert's doing a really great job. And Calgary says, "Come on, Amanda." I'm going to have to start wrapping this up a little bit because at 10 o'clock we're going live with Ben from VPN Denim. And I know he's already in the wings waiting. And I just needed, basically, before we go, we might have said it before, but we need to say it again. Where can people listen and hear and get to know your podcasts? What's the best place for them to go to? Please let everybody know so they can all get involved and start to listen. And I'll start with you, Adam and Albert, because you're at the left-hand side of my screen.
Yeah, so you can check out our podcast. Our primary platform is iTunes and the podcast app, but we have our own website, veervulnerabilisveer.com. You can find that from our Instagram handles. It's on Spotify. It's pretty much everywhere. We got some good distribution there. So yeah, Spotify, podcast app, and then we also just stream right from our website, so you can catch all of our latest episodes from there.
Yeah, we're totally open to good guest suggestions. So just please send us DMs, especially if you've got a story. We love stories.
Please. We want to talk. We're ready to really launch season 2, so we're really excited. And I just want to shout out a couple people here because I saw a few come up, but see Andreas is here, James, and a couple other guys here. So Dave, Rugged Workwear, man. Just thank you guys for listening and being a part of the show and just really just hanging in there. I love your comments. I love your support. So thank you guys. Anyone who's listened to it, you just, really make it happen. So thank you again.
These guys are so pro. Listen to them. It's like this is a podcast, right? Yeah. So sorry to interrupt, but Denim Hunters podcast is on denimhunters.com, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcast, whatever. I think it's on most of them. So hit me up if you have something to say. Adam said it also earlier for their podcast, but go to Apple Podcast and subscribe, rate, and review it. Please do.
Nick, best place to find yours, buddy?
Well, like the other guys, I'm on all major platforms and can be played straight off the welldresseddad.com website. I have to say, I do prefer listening to podcasts on the phone. I listen to them while I'm running. And I do appreciate reviews and 5-star ratings, which really helps people find
Nick,
the
you have
podcast.
like total like expert BBC radio voice. You're so down.
Yeah, you should be on every
I'm
NPR
waiting to hear
radio
what's
station.
going on in Africa this morning. I just want to know what's going on around the world.
Yeah, you have a classic public radio voice. For me, I don't.
Unique selling point. Yeah,
very soothing and easy to listen to. Yeah, for me, it's just Instagram. You can find on almost any major podcast app, but Apple and Stitcher and Spotify, that sort of thing. It's the Grit and Kin, KIN podcast. But the best way to catch up with me is just the same thing on Instagram. It's at Grit and Kin, or a shameless plug. I run a vintage shop, and that's at Blacksmith Fine and Found. But you can get me on either of those.
Yeah, so for us, the easiest place to find us is at Sons of Selvage Podcast on Instagram. If you want to hang out with us at one of our meetups in London, that's at Worn Out Global. And same thing, rate, review. We're on all the platforms. And for us, if you want us to talk about a particular discussion topic, please message us. Or if you got some questions you'd like us to answer in our Q&A, please message us. And thanks for listening.
That's absolutely brilliant, guys. I've actually got a few.
Ben, just one last shout out is to you, because I cannot believe the amount of detail that you've mastered. I'm like completely blown away by I'm not sure how many people come together to make it happen, but you deserve a major round of applause for making it happen.
That's really nice of you. Thank you. But it definitely ain't just me. There's my work wife, which is Amanda. And then we actually basically wrote my cousin in by the scruff of his neck to help us do this on one stream and get his website working, streaming to YouTube and everything like that. And he's been brilliant as well.
Yeah, it's incredible what you achieved like since last season. It's like everything, certain things from last season, you can see you guys like definitely took it to the next level really fast.
It's hey, listen, the next one's not going to be for another 6 months because we need to work on getting YouTube channel really up and running and working. But we're a complete open book. I mean, this is all on one stage. We could have 2 stages, 3 stages, 4 stages. It's up to us. If anybody wants to be involved, then just let us know. And basically, we're putting the foundations in. So all the technicalities and how it works and how the links are built and who can host and co-host, we're basically building that. And then after that, like we're kind of hoping that, we'll always, me and Amanda will always do our stage, but I'm kind of hoping we can have a stage of leatherworks. We can have a stage of fabrics, a stage of denim construction, but we can't do that. We're just us two. We need other people that want to come in and work with us to make it happen. Our thought process is so long as we get the foundation sorted, then all anybody's got to worry about is basically booking the speakers and doing what I'm doing and doing what Amanda's doing, because everything else will be lined up. So that goes for anybody that's listening. Please do just let us know, because anybody that wants involved, it's an open book. We're doing it all for charity. It's so. Just let us know. Just let us know. But thank you for recognising that, Albert. I really appreciate it. But it definitely ain't just me. There is Amanda and a quiet tech guy in the background that is also sat there monitoring it right now, texting me analytics and who's watching what all at the same time. So anyway, I'm going to have to move on. It is 10 o'clock and it is time for Ben and Ben to have a chinwag. To anybody watching, I know I keep saying it and I'm going to keep saying it. There is a charity raffle on board. We have crossed the 200 ticket line, which I was really hoping we would do. My aim is to get to 350 by the time we finish in 14 hours. 41 rugged prizes, shall we call it, the rugged raffle. All for a good cause, all going to save the children. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Anyway, right, so now I'm going to ask everybody to mute themselves apart from my mate Ben. And then we can get chatting away. If anybody's got any questions for Ben, please do keep putting it in the questions box. If you're on YouTube, unfortunately, you'll not be able to do that. We can't see that. I'm not monitoring YouTube comments. I don't know if there is any, but I am monitoring the Zoom comments, and I will come back to them towards the end of the conversation. So a few more that's just come in. Somebody's eating a pack of quavers. Congratulations. That's cool. Thanks, Ben and everyone. Appreciate you all. If anyone wants to chat, give me a shout. Gritting Kin, Blacksmith, Fine and Found. Thank you for that one, brother. Mike, and hi, everyone from Sijor Durkimbuta. I apologize if I've got that wrong. And Nick's just put a reminder on there that his podcast is called Damology. Anyway, now we're over to me and Ben. Let me